They live in huts, believe in magic, perform dark rituals, and eat people. These are the most common behaviors of primitive indigenous tribes. They live deep in the jungle, isolated from the modern world, and have always held a particular fascination for us. But our perceptions are often shaped by ancient stories and racist stereotypes. So, in today's video, we want to give you an insight into the daily life of what is considered the most violent jungle people in the world, the Korowai. The Korowai genuinely live as they did thousands of years ago and believe in spirits and evil magic. But is cannibalism still part of their rituals today? You are about to find out. So, stay tuned here at Wise Fool. To reach the Korowai tribe, you must first make a very long journey. The Korowai live on the island of New Guinea, located in the Pacific Ocean. Despite the most modern technology, the western part of the island is one of the few places in the world that has yet to be fully mapped, as there are no roads or trails here for the most part, and low clouds prevent satellite coverage. The Korowai people have lived for thousands of years on this part of the island, also home to many animals and plants found nowhere else in the world. To visit them, you'll have to walk through the unforgiving jungle for 10 days. The Korowai, who call themselves Kolufo in their language, do not have villages there as you might imagine, but live mainly as nomads in the forest. This means they have no permanent residence, but move to their tribal area to live with and from the forest and its plants and animals. Among the approximately 750 different tribes living in New Guinea and speaking over 800 different languages, the Korowai stand out in particular. In fact, they are said to be the most violent indigenous tribe in the world, where cannibalism is still practiced today. But what does daily life really look like for these people living deep in the tropical jungle? For most of the approximately 3,000 Korowai who still exist today, the day begins at sunrise, as it has for thousands of years. Since the tribe has remained largely untouched by outside factors due to its location in an area difficult for outsiders to reach, it still lives in many ways, as if in the Stone Age. This means that people there can't just get their breakfast off the shelf in a shop, but must forage for it in the forest. To protect themselves from wild animals, flooding, and hostile tribes, the Korowai usually sleep in tree houses at high altitudes, up to 150 feet above the ground. To forage for food, they then descend. What sounds difficult to us, by the way, is not a problem for the Korowai. Thanks to daily practice, members of the tribe can easily climb up and down huge trees without any assistance. They eat mostly what the forest serves them. This means, among other things, beetle larvae, bird nests, edible plants, mushrooms, or tree rats. However, the tribesmen also go hunting with bows and arrows or build traps in the forest to supply their families with meat from wild boars, marsupials, or snakes. The Korowai also fish, moving across the swamps in wooden canoes. A very special food for the people is crocodile meat. However, crocodiles can only be eaten by men among the Korowai. Such conservative views are also found in other areas among the forest nomads. Even tree houses, in which families of up to 8 people live, are strictly segregated by gender. And the general worldview of the Korowai also looks pretty old-fashioned. The people believe that there are 3 worlds. One is the inner world, in which they, animals, plants, and spirits live, and 2 outer worlds, that of death and that of the endless ocean, in which lives a huge fish that devours everything. People don't believe in natural death. On the contrary, they always think it is magic when someone dies. And this has consequences, of course, because even if someone dies simply from illness or old age, in the eyes of the nomads, it is the fault of the so-called kakwa, a person addicted to magic. These kakwa are often hunted down and killed with bows and arrows, even if they are members of the same family. But that's not all. The killed kakwa are then divided into manageable portions and served for dinner on banana leaves. In addition, cannibalism is also used by the forest nomads as a punishment for stealing. At least that was the situation in the mid-2000s when an Australian journalist traveled to the impenetrable jungles of New Guinea to see if there was any truth to the rumors of cannibalism. In areas of settlements deep in the jungle, such practices are said to still exist. But not all Korowai live in such a traditional and brutal way. There are some remarkable modern things in the daily lives of the nomadic forest people that one would not expect. The people where most women dress only in a skirt made of plants and where men often wear only a sheet wrapped around their genitals as clothing have undergone some remarkable developments over the past few centuries. This is particularly true for the Korowai, who live on the edge of the settlement area, not completely isolated in the jungle. A few decades ago, Dutch missionaries built settlements there with small, simple dwellings and other buildings that people could use for themselves, which were accepted by the indigenous people. So, not all Korowai live as forest nomads in tree houses, but increasingly more are growing foods such as sweet potatoes, bananas, producing flour, and baking bread. However, even the Korowai in the peripheral areas cannot read and write today, as there is no written language in their culture. A very strange influence of modernity on the indigenous people is that they now use batteries. Now you are probably wondering why, because after all, the Korowai have no devices. In fact, they believe that the discarded batteries they find in nature have magical powers, and that's because of the corrosive acid inside the battery. Primitive people use this acid to etch scars on their skin as jewelry. On the other hand, the traditional jewelry of the people consists of snails and animal teeth, bamboo rings that tribal members wrap around their hips, or animal bones that they put in their noses. You may wonder where all this information about the still primarily isolated indigenous people featured in this video comes from. In fact, since the 1970s, various missionaries, expeditions, and documentary filmmakers have been systematically trying to contact the Korowai in order to learn more about their fascinating life in the depths of the jungle. Before this, absolutely nothing was known about these people. Researchers and other visitors sometimes experience violence because the Korowai are actually anything but peaceful. When tourists once wanted to visit the people, for example, there were such violent riots with casualties that the New Guinea police first entered their territory to calm the people. The fact that witchcraft and cannibalistic rituals probably take place deep in the jungle today also makes the Korowai perhaps the most violent indigenous tribe in the world. On the other hand, in addition to the traditionally living Korowai, there are now members of the tribe who wear clothes and live with modern achievements such as mobile phones. Even previously unknown cigarettes are now smoked by many members of the tribe. The Korowai are thus a divided people in the 21st century. On the one hand, there are the completely isolated Korowai, whose way of life has remained almost unchanged since the Stone Age. On the other hand, there are the tribal members who live almost no differently from the people outside. Even decades after its discovery, the indigenous tribe hasn't really been well researched, because with just 3,000 members of the tribe spread over an incredible 600 square kilometers of hard-to-penetrate forests and swamps, many secrets remain unfathomable. Moreover, for fear of being killed, few outsiders dare to venture deep into the tribe's territory. Do you think that the traditional Korowai people will still exist in the future, or will they become extinct in the long run? Feel free to write your opinion in the comments. Subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the video, and see you next time here at Wise Fool.